Now, here with me are 5 secrets about money that I learned from my Indian friend. And guess what? I know most of you guys know who are Indians, and in our beautiful country, Kenya, we do have them. And by the way, they are listed as one of the tribes in Kenya. These guys do have some secrets, and we always know that, and we appreciate that fact. But guess what? Let me consider myself lucky because I've interacted with that friend of mine, and they have taught me some of the secrets that I'm ready to share with you today. So all what you need to do, just relax, watch this video to the end. And guess what? I'm sharing this information with you for free. Ain't gonna charge you nothing. The only thing that I want from you, which is a favor, by the way, just a favor, okay, is to like this video, which doesn't cost anything. And also down below here on your right, there is a small button written subscribe. It is in black. Hit that magical button. And I know you're wondering now, what's the importance of that? You'll be notified whenever I upload a good video. By the way, I do upload a video each and every day. Let's get into the business. Now, the very first thing that I did learn from this guy who is an Indian friend is that, by the way, guys, let me just ask a question. Before I even tell you that first point, let me ask a question. How many of you have ever seen an Indian person eating lunch in a hotel? Let's say they're working somewhere, they have the money, they have the car, they have all the things that you believe they do have in terms of wealth. But how many of you have ever seen them eating lunch from a hotel? Probably close to no one, okay? Now, the point is this. Number one, what I realize is that there is one thing that if you tell a Kenyan to do, and maybe make sure that at least if they can carry their food, or maybe they can do something called like, maybe go back home and eat their lunch, they will never resonate with that. They say, hey, that's not a good thing. They'll prefer go eating in a hotel. Now, let me tell you one thing about lunch. I came to realize these guys usually either carry their food. If they are married, their wives carry the food and make sure that the food is warm by the time the lunch comes in, the guy can be able to take from this. But this guy has the capacity to go and actually eat in any big restaurant out there, even a 5-star. But they don't do that. Two options. They either choose to go back home. They would rather go back home, eat their lunch and come back. Or option two, they would decide either to carry the lunch and have them at their business premises. Hardly will you ever see these guys interacting with you in that hotel that usually love to go, them taking lunch out there. So that's the point. And by the way, I came to do one mathematics. I was actually interacting with guys who are doing the mijengo thing, the construction workers. There is this wonderful mama wa chakula who they bring food to the site and what have you. I came to realize this guy, the amount of money they pay at the end of the week in terms of the food, you realize that the guy is actually parting with close to 1,000 Kenyan shillings. For example, let's say this guy is being paid like 1,000 bob in a day, and then you realize the guy is actually eating all the way up to 300 Kenyan shillings in that particular day. You realize this guy, by the end of the week, this guy is parting ways with a lot of money in terms of the food that you actually been paying or actually eating that entire stretch of the week. So the point is this: if you can actually check on this thing called lunch, it can actually save you a lot of money. Okay, I know some of you be like, hey, lunch, no, whatever. Yeah, I understand most of you view it from the emotional point of view, but the fact remains this thing actually takes people a lot of money out there. All right, now let's go to the next point that I did learn from this guy. The other thing that these wonderful people of ours, they are frugal. You can call them minimalists, okay, or aka people call them stingy. That's for a fact. People call them stingy. Why? Because most of the things these guys do, you realize these guys don't even dress that impressive shirt, that Gucci thing, that Versace things and all those kind of things. This guy just present themselves in quite a decent way, obviously, but they don't live in that kind of a life whereby they are just showing opulence. Unless maybe it's the new generation that is coming in, or maybe the guy has already made the tides and the guy is actually in a very far much better position to do exactly that. But the point remains, these guys appear as if they are frugal, they are minimalist, and they are stingy. Frugal in the sense that these guys do not misuse their money. They would prefer even to live in a quite, they are ghetto, allow me to use the term, by the way. They have the capacity to live even in Kilimani, Kileleshwa, those big apartments and what have you. But when you find them living there, you'll be shocked. And if they have to live there, they live in large numbers, like their family members and what have you. So they kind of, share the cost of living and what have you. But we here, the moment you get small money, you go live by yourself in a whole apartment that you're paying a crazy amount of money. Therefore, you are constricting the amount of money that is actually savable to a point whereby you get yourself into lots of problems. So they are frugal, they are minimalist, meaning anything that they do is actually in a minimal way. You can find somebody running a big hardware, but the guy is riding on a scooter, a very small scooter, maybe worth worth like 50,000 or 60,000. But the guy is breaking in more than that amount of money in a single day. But the point is this, they usually prefer, let me just live in a minimal life for a certain period of time, and then I can channel most of my money towards investments. And then once everything is okay, therefore I can be able to do what? To do that what I want. Now, the other thing is that with reference to stinginess, people say that, hey, Indians pay less salary, or they are very strict, they are very what? It is true, because when it comes to productivity, they don't take anything less than A game. Okay? By the way, I came to realize one thing. If excuse me, if there are guys who are really strict to their jobs, are actually Asian people. I don't know whether you guys have realized one thing. There's something unique about the Asian people. The Asian people, they are very, very, very hardworking. For example, if you consider some people like Chinese, Indians, Philippines, and what have you, these people are very, 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 very hardworking, and they are very strict to whatever they do. So things to do with them being stingy in terms of times and everything, that is a thing that they cannot negotiate less than A game. All right, so let's get into the next point. And by the way, before I even say this next point, this is the point that most of you guys in Africa actually do not understand it better. And I'm going to say it. It's called generational wealth. It's called generational wealth. You find these guys actually know very well when it comes to generational wealth. What does it mean? For example, you can find a very successful African who does good in real estate investments and the businesses and what have you. But the thing that the guy is pushing towards the kids is not really what made him be or her be where he is or she is. Now you find like, hey, you can be very good at real estate and all those kind of things, and in investment, but you're pushing things to do with education. And I'm not saying education is bad. You're pushing things to do with education to kids. Kids, they have never gotten even any time to interact with you in whatever you do. So, and by the time now you grow old, you act surprisingly if your kids are not in a position to actually take over from where you left. Why? How can they take over? You have never even been with them in your business. You have never shown them nothing when it comes to investments. So the point is this, you find these wonderful Indians, what they usually do is that whenever a kid closes the school, you always find them with their dad there next to them, doing the businesses, dealing with customer cares, how to operate the business, where to buy, where to sell, all those operationals of a business, and the prospect, the goals, and everything to do the orientation of that given business. So these guys knows very well that once I get off this specific chair or this specific position, my son, my daughter will take over from me, and this business, I can be assured that in 10, 20, 30, even 100 years will be here. For example, there's some of the companies that I would mention names here in Kenya, but they have been in operation for even over 100 years. They've still been in operation. And by the way, this issue of generational wealth are very well understood with people like whites, the Indians, and the Jews. They really understand these kind of things. But when it comes to Africans, you find somebody can be very ultra wealthy, okay, within his within his time, but the time that guy face off and gets out of this world, the businesses goes down, everything crumbles, and you don't even understand exactly what is going on out there. Why? We never have what we call the preparations of the people who should take over from us. Have you ever seen a 70-year-old guy? He's even struggling. He's on a walking stick, but he's struggling to control the project. The son is out there, he cannot even be let that guy to come close to him, and all those kind. Have you ever seen those kind of a thing? It is really, very wanting. It's always good to make sure that at least you bring them on board, show them how to do the things as they run their businesses, and you go to the next level. And that's why you find these wonderful Indians, when they buy like something like sort of a tractor or something, they call it Singhai and Sons, meaning that it's his and the sons to come and something of sort. So that's quite an amazing thing. And also the importance of this is that once you take your company from the ground, and maybe let's say you get like 4 stairs, now the sons will take them from the 4 stairs to the 8th stairs. Now the grandson will take it from 8th stairs to, you get the point. So by the time you guys realize the company has been existing for like 100 years, they have perfected everything. If it's about production, they know everything about the company. But here we are, we get ourselves into lots of problems. Now, the other thing is that you guys lack is called internal support. Internal support in the sense that I've ever seen Indians, once they start getting some money, most of them, if they are buying cars for the transport, they go for the Mahindra, they buy those cars from their own countries, they support their fellas. If they're employing people, there is no way these guys will ever give you a priority before they give their own fellas the priority. And by the way, I know this one may sound controversial, but let me just say it. You find, like, let's say in a structure of a given company, you find those guys who are getting quite of a good salary from their people. And again, you might find like, hey, you, if you're a Kenyan, and you find like you may be doing the same job with somebody at the same level, but you're not earning the same salary. Well, I know that one may be contested, but anyway, it is what it is. The fact remains that these guys usually have what we call the internal support among themselves. You find like, hey, these guys can even live in collection in a single room or maybe in a certain room together, and then they can say, hey, let's sacrifice for the next 3 years, but after we get out of here, then everybody has the capacity to start a business. And by the way, I've seen this character also with our wonderful fellas called the Somalis. The Somalis also have this kind of a thing. They rather even live in the same home compound until everyone actually becomes satisfied in terms of, hey, until you feel now I have the capacity to get out of the home, so that at least they can be able to go start a business and be able to invest and progress out there. But what happens to our fellas? Hey, the moment you get 18 years old, you're kicked out. By the way, I'm not contesting that, it's still okay, but the point is, you get out, you do not even have a way to stand by yourself. Nothing is going out there, it's very tough out there. But sometimes you understand the situation, because hey, maybe the parents don't even if you were to stay there for the next 40 years, the parents don't have the capacity to actually help you. But sometimes you get kicked out even before you actually get on foot, so that at least you can be able to support themselves. It's okay, I understand the point of that. I also support it, but at the same time, it's also good to make sure that at least you be a bit considerate, so that at least we can be able to all come together and be able to help each other, so that we can progress to the next level. So internal support is quite an amazing thing that if you were to incorporate it in your life, then that can actually be so good when it comes to your development. All right, guys, so let's get to the next level. Okay, now the point is this. Let's get to the next level now. The next one, or the last one, is about religious respect. I know this one may be contested by most of you, but anyway, let me just say it. Well, there's a thing that I actually learned from these guys, okay? Now, the religious respect. These guys respect the aspect of the fact that, hey, I'm associating myself with a certain religion, and I have to respect that at all the cost. You see, I always tell people, if you believe on something, if you believe, hey, and this is what you ought to do, then at the end of the day, you ought to respect that, exactly that. Have you ever seen these guys doing their religious, day, let's say Diwali or whatever the thing, they carry it with the utmost respect. And also, if it's time to go and pray, they do exactly that. And by the way, I came to realize even these guys, they usually respect your religion. They tell you, hey, you know what, guys, it is time to pray. And do it in however you love to do it, because, hey, we ought to do that. So they tell you, go ahead and do however you want to do it, provided you're gonna do something as far as the prayers are concerned. They respect not only their own religion, but also other people's religion. And those 5 points, actually, I learned from my fellow, or from my friend who happens to be an Indian. So anyway, guys, well, you may pick some that works for you, and you can be able to incorporate it in your life. Sometimes it's not good like to borrow everything, incorporate it in your life, because sometimes it's not really that what can work for you, guys. Anyway, for now, it's a goodbye, but don't forget, you can pick my number from the description of this specific video. Shoot me a call, and then we can talk business, because I have booklets about businesses. I also offer services pertaining to investment for just a cup of coffee. For now, it's a goodbye, and see you in the next one.